MediaTech Ventures Community Spotlight brought to you by Insperity, powerful HR solutions with exceptional follow-through. HR that makes a difference. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am John Zazzaro, president and co-founder of MediaTech Ventures with Tamara Deike on another episode of Community Spotlight here. Welcome to the show, Tamara. How are you?
Hi.
And
Nice
I said your name right this time because I always go
Tamara.
back and forth between, Tamara, Tamara.
It's okay. Tamara rhymes with camera.
That's right. I tell myself that. It's funny. I think about that now before I say your name. I'm like, Tamara. One of these days, I'll be like, I'm here with camera. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Nice to see you. Yes. Doing well.
Good. So Tamara, ladies and gentlemen, is the CEO and founder of Aces High Creative, just an overall creative badass genius with just an incredible background in history in the media and entertainment industry, right? I mean, it's very rare that, people cross-pollinate, so to speak, within kind of the creative industries. And I think you've kind of almost been in every vertical that I can almost imagine in media. Can you talk to us a little bit about what Aces High Creative is and kind of how you got into the creative industries?
Yeah. Maybe the best place is to start from back in the day. I started off in the music industry at a record label where we sold records and CDs. And, I physically phoned stores and asked
those.
Exactly. I physically phoned stores to ask them to buy my shiny things. And it was particularly challenging because it was dance and house music, which was really unpopular and just didn't get a lot of shelf space, right, in your average retail store. So, but always, been tied intrinsically to the music industry. Had a zine when I was 15, had a zine on campus, used to promote shows in my college apartment as a freshman on campus and charge people to get into my parties. Just, deeply involved in the music industry. And then over the years, I've transitioned through a number of different careers within music and technology and media, to your point, John. So working for music tech startups, managing artists, a talent booker. I was a DJ myself for many years. Lived overseas in London and Berlin for 7 years. Also had my own agency over there where I really got into event production as well. Love to host a good event, love to bring people together. And then, I wrote for Vice. I continue to write today about music-centric concepts and topics. And even worked for a number of years in the background music space for physical, retail, luxury, and hospitality brands, actually developing playlists and music profiles and programs to utilize as marketing tools, really, to help increase footfall, dwell time, increase brand love, basically, for stores like Marc Jacobs and H&M and even Walmart, and for hotels like, Marriott and the Line Hotel, helping them to, connect with their consumers and their guests, using music as a vehicle to do that.
Sure.
And so about just over a year ago, I decided to leave LA and come to Austin, and set up my own business here. And that business at the time was really fueled around supporting creatives and brands to kind of realize their dreams and help them make things happen. That's kind of the short version. So creative strategy can be all those things, right?
Yeah.
Taking the nucleus of an idea and like building around it and executing it, making it realistic. And so producing events was one of those kind of offerings, creative strategy, and then sound design and audio branding. And to be very frank, the event production thing was really keeping me busy. And I was traveling all over the US and I was producing events for Facebook and Spotify and for artists like Beck and Cage the Elephant. And then I had a number of events lined up for South by Southwest. And of course, they all went away.
South by was hard on a lot of people, but I mean, in the entertainment industry continues to struggle and find its footing, which is, but I think what's fascinating though, and there's a sense of pride in entrepreneurship and innovation that I hold dearly too. In times of great peril, right, for anybody, but you find ways to make it work, and for a good way that I think a lot of people can learn from, especially in your experience, right? I mean, you literally saw most of your year, if not all of your year, kind of go away in the blink of an eye, right?
Yep.
But then you started bring music home, and I think it's a really interesting pivot, right? Where now we're focused a little bit more on fixing and bringing awareness to the struggles of the entertainment industry. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. So Bring Music Home, my dear friends Amber Mundinger of the Artist Den TV series out of New York, and my friend Kevin Condon, who is an incredible photographer in the music space, rang me up in early March and had an idea. And the idea was, we know that music venues are closed. We know that musicians are currently out of work and kind of life is at a standstill. We should be documenting this. Why don't we go talk to these people? And so we created a strategy that had safety at the top of the pyramid, of course, because we didn't know a lot about Corona at that time, obviously. And we wanted to be safe, not only for us, but for the venues that we were speaking to. And we called up a few friends in a couple of key cities. We decided we would just start with 5 cities. So it was LA, San Francisco, New York, Nashville, Austin. And so we reached out to some incredible photographers that we know in those markets, and started to ring the venues and say, listen, we'd love to talk to you, the people behind live music culture, the ones who are keeping the lights on, the ones who are there 7 days a week trying to, bring amazing culture to your communities. And so the plan was to document their stories, talk to them about why they're passionate about music, what they do, what they're hopeful for, and photograph them in portraiture photography to create a book. A coffee table book is the product that we initially set out to create. And pretty quickly, we realized that 5 cities was never going to be enough, that the pandemic wasn't going away, and that we were in the middle of documenting something extremely important and we shouldn't stop. And so we started to build out an incredible group of creative collaborators across the US, many of which we knew and some of which we did not know, which has been just amazing to get to know such a diverse and beautiful group of humans who are truly unbelievably talented and at the top of their game from a video production capacity, production in general, and then also photographers. So really small, nimble teams in each of these cities that we started to build out. And we're now in 30 cities nationwide.
Wow.
We have shot over 200 music venues across the US.
Awesome.
Which is upwards of 400 individual interviews. And so, this is in the middle of a pandemic that's obviously continued to go on and on. Music venues have obviously been very deeply impacted by this. They were the first to close, the last to open. And then, as you know, John, but I'll just say it out loud, if the federal government doesn't step in literally in the next 7 to 10 days, we're going to start watching even more of these venues close. We've already witnessed quite a few of them close.
Yeah, there was Austin talked about, right? By October, November, 90% of the venues closing.
That's right.
That's what a starking and sobering statistic.
It's also taken a relative backseat to many of the other very important things that have been happening during this time, right?
Sure.
So we've seen the Black Lives Matter movement, for example. California's on fire. There's a hurricane headed our way.
Two of them.
Yeah, not one, but 2.
Yeah, why not? 2020, give it to me.
It's a 2-for-1 deal on chaos. So yeah, and we've managed to navigate these weird times, which is a true testament to the passion that our team has, but also to these incredible people that work at these venues, many of which are out of work right now, right? Almost all of them are out of work right now. Talking to them about what they're hopeful for. It's not a story of doom and gloom, though it is a scary story, straight up. It's a story of tenacity, of grit. How have they pivoted? What have they been doing? What does the new model look like? Because here's the thing, and you know this very well, the music economy was broken long before this happened.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So strictly depending on ticket sales and alcohol revenue is not enough. And as someone who has also witnessed firsthand the way that other countries navigate and patron the arts more broadly speaking, the money that they invest into those economies, we have a real problem here in the US, and I certainly don't have all the answers, but I'm trying to on a very small scale, shine a light on just one aspect of what that problem looks like, so that I hope that when we're done with this, when we come through the other side, whatever that looks like, that we're stronger and have made some really important changes and developments that are going to make the music economy better in the long run.
Right. More foundational elements that'll stand through even pandemic, so to speak. Right. I actually want to touch on that because it's a really good point. We know that the venue economy in particular hasn't changed in decades. Right. I mean, it's been the same, booze and ticket. And we know that ticket sales have been pretty stagnant for years, right? As far as, $5 cover charge to get into a lot of shows. What are you seeing venues doing that is successful, that is keeping their lights on? Is there anything in particular? I mean, I could talk about the technology element of it all day. We know that streaming's there. We know that there are people and organizations really focused on that, but is it more than that? Is kind of where I'm curious.
It's a great question, and it's something that I'm thinking about all the time, as is our founder group for Bring Music Home, because we want to be a part of that solution as well. What can we do? So we're thinking about some of those things as we speak. That said, I think what I believe has started to happen, and we will continue to see happening, is an evolution in terms of the way that venues are structured and set up, meaning the physical spaces. So we did see some of this previously with cafes and restaurants in some of the more metropolitan cities in the US and overseas too, whereby during the daytime hours, it's one thing, and in the evening, it's something else, so that two entities can effectively share the rent costs, things like that. That's not rocket science by any means, but I think we're going to see more collaborations, right? More ways in which these venue groups are starting to think about other groups that they identify
Shared
with.
ownership. Right?
Shared ownership, right?
Okay.
Cooperatives, right? What is that? Is there a cooperative model for the staff even, or for record labels that you patron as a venue, whereby you're always generally like booking artists from the same 12 labels, let's say? Is there a cooperative way in which shared ownership and investment can come together to sustain the physical space, right? Then I also am starting to see, as an example, with the Parish and Empire control room here in Austin, is an example of this, where they're starting to interject other services and offerings within the four walls of their space. So I'm probably not going to get this exactly right, but I believe that they're offering music production and video production support in the four walls of their space. So
Right.
if you're a musician and you need a video for social media or for a promo you're creating or whatever it might be, it seems that they then have those services available to offer within the four walls of their space. I think we're going to see more brands putting their money, I hope, where their mouth is. For how many decades have we watched brands stand on the shoulders of the creativity and the cool cachet that musicians and music, more broadly speaking, provide them with? Forever.
Especially in the live music capital of the world, right?
Forever. Yeah, they've always been intrinsically connected. And so now more than ever, brands, musicians, venues, the music economy, they need your help. And so, I hope that will then, we will begin to see, and we've already begun to see a lot of this, like Yeti's doing a great job, for example. Vans has been doing a great job. There's lots of brands out there that are putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and they've been jumping in and helping. I hope that we start to see more of that. And I hope that it's more than just hey, yeah, we'll sponsor your tour, but more integrated support from brands, whereby maybe it's a couple of brands that have a stake of ownership in a space. I don't know. But those types of things, and I'm sure there's plenty of others, but your point about technology integrations and live streaming, a lot of venues have seen some success with live streaming. So instead of, being limited by the legal capacity laws of your venue and what the city ordinance says you're allowed to have it, legally in your space, especially when we go back to being open and maybe it's, 70, 50, 25% capacity. I mean, how long does that get stretched out, right?
Well, venues were not made to have 25% capacity. That doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not, if the House of Blues was made and they were laughing all the way to the bank because at 25% capacity, they broke even. everybody would be in the music venue business.
Absolutely. Exactly. So you're right. So that doesn't work, right? So to that point, I think the technology integration piece, we're going to continue to see it get better. People are going to get sharper. They're going to get better with the production of what those shows, if you will, look like, so that venues can then start to open up tickets and passes to anyone, anywhere in the world that wants to observe or witness or participate in a show. Your cousin in rural Kentucky that doesn't have any venues around him maybe wants to see a show at Mohawk, a couple times a year, right?
That's right.
So anyway, I think those are some of the things that we're going to see. But what scares the shit out of me is that we're going to start watching a lot of venues suffer, falter, and close before that happens.
That's right.
And this funding, if it does come through or if it doesn't, either way, venues are still in such a precarious position in that so many of them are so behind on payments, right? And they've furloughed their staff and just so many things. So it could be
and it goes upstream, unfortunately, because when they're late, then the owner of the building defaults to the banks on the loans, right? And it's actually it's a very much bigger problem than just venues closing. There's a lot of parts of the economy in which that actually has very profound effects on.
It's an ecosystem. Talent bookers, artist managers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Endless.
Security staff, roadies, sound technicians, all the things, photographers. We've been working with about, 30 to 40 photographers in these different cities, right? If they specifically have been music photographers, they're pivoting and, shooting other things because they have to, right? So it's this whole circular economy that's all connected.
So I want to, if you don't mind, I want to pivot a little bit because it's not all doom and gloom. There are some great things, and I think in a lot of times you see in downturn economies is really when innovation happens, right? A lot of the Fortune 1000s were founded in economic disparities. What I wanted to actually talk a little bit more about is your experience. Being extremely diverse, I think, allows diverse paths of thinking, right? Of how to look at things, problems, solutions, and being able to run at things. Has your for people that are thinking about creative industries or being a creative director, first of all, what does that mean? And number one, and number two, how does somebody pursue a career like that?
Yeah, how does someone pursue a career like that? I don't know. I honestly feel like my intuitions have usually been very prominent in guiding me, and that hasn't always been the right choice, right?
Sure.
One thing I will say is, my asshole radar has gotten a lot better. So choosing who to work with, it's always a choice, even when it feels like you don't have a choice. It's always a choice. So I would say, don't forget that part. But I think that there was a time in my life when I really believed that having such a diverse background, having worked at all these different types of companies, different sizes, I think the biggest company I worked for had, 400 staff. And then of course I've been, a solopreneur, and I've run the gambit of working in offices, working from home, working remotely overseas. I've done all these different types of things. I think I used to believe that that was somehow a handicap. And I realize now that it's not. It's a strength. Every time you go through these types of challenges, you pick yourself back up. You learn how to adapt very, very quickly. You learn how to be nimble. Your network continues to expand and grow, especially when you treat people well, which I try to. And, so then, you can kind of have this diverse group of people that you can call upon in any kind of vertical and ask them questions that you don't have answers to, right? Like, be vulnerable, reach out. But if someone's trying to get into the creative industry, to answer part of your question, I think that the first step is recognizing what your creativity looks like, right? For years, I've struggled with what am I actually creative I don't have a product that I make. I don't paint, I don't draw, I don't make jewelry, so what am I really? A creative? And I've made peace with the belief that I am a creative. Everything I do, I'm creative in everything that I try to, achieve and the way that I work. And my creativity, if I'm thinking about a product, it's really the way that I strategize, and it's also my writing. My writing is my creative voice, right? And creative director, as far as a title goes, to answer the other part of your question, I think that is a really nebulous title, and I've seen it mean so many different things at this point. I'm not a graphic designer. I think traditionally creative directors were meant to be both creative in thinking and strategy, but also able to maneuver between a variety of different skill sets within an industry, whereby all creative kind of flows up and downward from them. But I think that's still important. But I think this belief that you have to also be a designer in order to be a creative director is going away, because people need creatives who can navigate between directing content, post-production, art direction, experiential, all of those different types of things. So I think that I think it's important for a creative director to ask of the company that might be hiring them, what is your definition of creative director? Because I'm going to tell you mine, right? And then figure out what those vacancies might be.
Got it.
Does that answer
Yeah, no, it does. And I do think that titles can be nebulous at times as well. For example, everybody always asks me, what do you do? It's like, as president, it's like, I just make sure everybody's happy and they have all the things they need to be successful. So whatever you call that, president, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
One of your big expertise is audio branding. I don't think a lot of people are familiar with audio branding, let alone know why it's important. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, audio branding is, basically helping a brand to discover the core sound identity that represents them as an organization. And so when you're defining a brand's audio brand effectively, it's very similar to the way that a design agency would develop a visual identity system for a brand. And also audio should fit into that system, right? So when we are assessing a brand and determining, we audit them, right? So, and we want to determine historically, where have they been with sound, with music, with voice? What are the key kind of components that have helped the brand to become who they are today from a sound perspective? And who are they today? Where are they utilizing sound and audio? Is it TV commercials and radio? Is it a podcast that they might have created? Do they have any sound or audio in their app, on their website, et cetera? And then coming out on the other side of that with what we've created, which is a proprietary audio audit, which effectively tells them, where they're strong, where they're weak, and where their competitors sit in terms of audio branding. And then we go away and we take those findings and we develop a core brand audio identity system for them to utilize across all channels, like I mentioned. It could be UI UX in their website or in an app. It could be for a podcast that they're creating or developing, because tonality and intention and emotion, all of those things are so important when you're developing a sound identity system. And then what really I think helps make us stand apart is that we're music people. We all come from music backgrounds. My entire team are musicians, vocalists, music producers, sound engineers. So we go away and we create the original IP. You're not going to hear this anywhere else, and it's not coming from some audio library shelf somewhere that potentially another brand has used multiple times. So it's original, it's yours, and it's yours forever. And then sound design, which goes hand in hand with audio branding, is really helping brands to develop those unique sound usage elements and defining examples of those sound types that they can utilize in different places. So really getting into the weeds of actually creating those sounds. For example, we had a client recently where we designed more than 100 unique sounds as part of the sound design package for a virtual reality experience.
Cool.
And it's a lot of work, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And it sounds unlike anything you've ever heard before because you've never heard it before. So Yeah, to your point though, I think brands are, I hope, beginning to recognize the importance of audio branding and sound design, because you want to reach your audience in the middle of a pandemic, and you can't do experiential basically. So you have to find new ways to market to them and new ways to reach them on an emotional level, and sound does that incredibly well. So
It does. It does. Yeah. Can you imagine movies like the scene where everybody's supposed to cry without music?
no, we're just
Like it's
scared.
almost it would
Yeah,
be it would almost be awkward at
scary
times,
movies are not scary. They're like laughable
That's
without
right. That's right.
scary music, right? So yeah, no, you're
We should do that
right.
sometime. I feel like that'd be really funny to watch. Be like, that wasn't scary at all. It's actually kind of stupid.
That's what my
Um,
babysitter used to make me do whenever I would get scared watching a scary movie. She's like, "We're just going to turn the sound down," and then we were like giggling because it was ridiculous. So yeah,
that's hilarious.
yeah.
That maybe that was the beginning of your long career
Who knows?
and with auditory creativity. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
maybe.
When so when people think about Aces High Creative and they think about Tamara Deike, what do you want them to think?
What do I want them to think? I want them to think that we are incredibly capable of bringing creative ideas to life, and that we have a ridiculously diverse group of expertise amongst myself and my teammates. We don't believe in doing anything halfway and are extremely detail oriented and really passionate about what we do. And so as far as our services go, creative strategy, any type of project that you're trying to bring to life, whether that's digital in real life, a marketing concept, we can help you ideate, figure it out, and then help you execute. And then, when it comes to audio, just full stop. Anything that your company or organization is thinking about, you should begin to add audio, give it a seat at the table, and start to budget for it, because there are quite a few audio agencies out there, and I can only imagine that more are going to continue to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Sound is deeply personal and very impactful, yet it's often overlooked and under budgeted.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that people will think of Aces High when they're considering doing anything with sound. And then when experiential comes back, in the interim, we're currently consulting on a handful of remote production as well as virtual experiences. So, I think to have been in the experiential in real life world that we were in for so many years, we know what it takes to have a really authentic, impactful real life experience. Well, we apply that to remote and virtual experiences now. I think there's a lot of companies out there that have never had that in real life experience producing events. And so I
Right.
believe that it gives us an upper hand when developing those types of experiences. Yeah.
And what do you what are some good resources, right? If I wanted to pursue this path towards being a creative director, or again, I agree with you. I too am a multifaceted generalist, and
Yeah.
I think that's really well. I think a lot of organizations, especially in the startup world, prefer that, because you need to wear every hat, right? You might have 3 people at a company, but you need to act like 20.
Mm-hmm.
And what were some books or some podcasts, stuff like that you would recommend for somebody that wanted to pursue?
Oh God. I am horrible with remembering the names of books, but basically every book that I read has something to do with entrepreneurialism or like popping your brain open and getting into a different stream of consciousness. And here's the thing, like, you have to be inspired to be inspirational. And in the middle of a pandemic, when we're all sitting at home, it's kind of a difficult thing to do. It's very
Right.
easy to get into the trap of sitting in your house, your outdoor office or whatever, and just working. And then you try to stop working and you're still working. So I would recommend, trying to just a little bit every week, even every day if you can, learning something. It could be a small something, or getting out and trying to do something either virtually through your computer screen, or getting out and being inspired by nature. I mean, we've been blessed with some pretty incredible nature here in Austin, and I'm thankful I'm living on the green belt so I can walk outside and go on a hike and check things out. As far as podcasts go, I don't know, man. I listen to podcasts with 2 ears. I listen for content and stories that I give a shit about, because I'm very particular about what I spend my time on, because I have so few hours in the day as I'm pursuing, the building of 2 businesses effectively, simultaneously. But when I listen to podcasts, I'm also listening to the quality of the audio and sound design. How do they do this? What did they think about? What voices are they using? What works? What doesn't? And there's a podcast that I just listened to when I drove out to Phoenix recently. And I highly recommend it because it's steeped in amazing storytelling. It's fantastic sound design, and it's just so well done and so cool. And it's Disgraceland. And it's the story of, crazy shit that went down in the music industry. I don't know the gentleman's name that does it, but he's phenomenal. And, I highly recommend, for example, the 2-part series on Guns N' Roses and the 2-part series on the Rolling Stones.
Awesome. I'm going to check that out. Yeah, I haven't, I actually have, 1, I've never heard of it, and 2, now I'm very interested in it.
Disgraceland. Yes.
Disgraceland. That's hilarious. He needs to get Paul Simon on there. There's just a juxtaposition there. Is there, if you had a superpower, any superpower that you can imagine, what would it be?
To turn all the Republicans into Democrats.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Not that I believe in homogeny, but in this particular instance, that's what I would do. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I'm trying to imagine that superhero outfit now.
And you get a Democrat, and you get a Democrat. I don't know what it would.
Would you have it'd be like a donkey symbol or something?
Sure, it would be just one. It would be a really great donkey kick, and it would just and then everyone would become a Democrat.
I'm gonna kick you to the left.
Yes, exactly. Look, I'm all for diversity, but this ship is on a crash course to shit still. So
Disgraceland.
Yes.
How do people get a hold of you and find you?
Great question. All right, so I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn, Tamara Deike, Deike. But I would highly recommend for your listeners and viewers that you check out Bring Music Home on Instagram. It's all one word. And then bringmusichome.com. Right now we've worked with amazing artists in nearly 30 cities. They're almost all launched, but to create an original citywide poster. And these posters are incredible. For example, Pilar Zita, our designer from Seattle, designed the last Coldplay album cover. We have an incredible group that we're working with, and 100% of the proceeds from the screen printed posters that are being sold and screen printed by our partner in Austin called Fine Southern Gentlemen, 100% of those proceeds goes to NIVA, the National Independent Venue Association. So that helps people that are currently out of work right now in this country that come from the music venues that you know and love in your own communities.
Awesome. Well, we could talk for hours, but obviously that wouldn't be a very good show for everybody, and they probably would tune out.
They'd be bored. Yeah.
But I'm very inspired by the work that you do. I love you need to be inspired to be inspirational. I think that's a quote for the books, by the way.
Well, I stole that from someone, but yes.
Well, that's fine. That's fine, right? But yeah, so that's great. Awesome. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you to Insperity for helping make this happen, and to the community. Again, if there's somebody that you know that you want to be highlighted in Community Spotlight, let us know. We're all here in this together, and this has been a really good conversation. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, John. I enjoyed it.
All right, let's go get it done.
Okay.